Since I'm recording this in the day, I set my light bulb to blue. That's why you might see a blue tinge in the background. Last video I recorded while playing Rocket League, but what I'll experiment with today is having those two separate so I can get my thoughts out much cleaner. So I'll just record a session of Rocket League after I record this one. But I'm a little conflicted because I don't know if I want to go along that line where I'm giving you dopamine, giving you increased dopamine, which could in fact lead to decreased attention span. Part of this just speaking with you or just speaking to the camera was to lower that dopamine where you wouldn't have anything else to look at. But it is something that I enjoy. It could be my own niche. So I'll experiment with that. Though I am a bit conflicted. I don't know if I should be doing this. If it's along the lines of what I'm trying to preach. Okay, on to the topic though. I wanted to talk about, well, my last video, how I was talking about gym approaching in the gym, and I wanted to refine that a bit more. There's a lot that I didn't talk about because I was focused on the game, but also because I hadn't fully fleshed it out and I hadn't fully thought about it. But now that I've had a few days to think about it, I can I have a lot of notes about this. Don't poison the well. Basically what that means is don't approach every single girl, and when that happens, every other girl will know that you approach every other girl. So you're just spoiling everything because they're just they're going to see you as approaching them not because you're interested, but because you're like that. Because you were going to do it anyways, whether it was her or somebody else. So showing that you're more selective and more intentional about it. I only approach very few girls, or I never approach. I only approach you. I've only approached you. That's much more significant and much more heartfelt, more genuine. It's okay if you warm approach, but don't do it every gym visit. And don't just do it to girls. You should also approach guys in the sense that you're looking to build a friendship. I think I mentioned this in the last video, anyways. Basically, you want to make friends. Yeah. You just, you're looking to find, whether you're approaching a girl or a guy, you're just looking to make friends. Now, okay, there is a little bit of an exception. I want to, I've directly approached girls in the gym before, but I wanted, I haven't done it too often, and I want to attempt it again and see if I can get it successful. So yesterday I went to the gym with my friend, and there was this girl that was attractive. And I would say I had the confidence to go up with her, go up to her, but I kind of didn't feel, I don't know why I didn't actually. I don't think it was a confidence thing. It more felt like I didn't really know how to go about it because sure I could just talk with her, but the whole reason I'm talking with her is to get a number, is to get a date out of it. So why would I just talk with her where it leads to nothing and I'll probably never see her again, even though she goes to the gym and it's summer and only a few people go to the gym. It's so rare that I'll see her again. So what I realized after thinking about that for a while, I should have just gone up to her and been more direct. At the end of my conversation, well, I would talk with her, and I'm gonna go over what I would say exactly, the type of things that I would say to start the conversation. And then at the end, I would say something along the lines of, hey, I approached you because I thought you were attractive and you seem cool after talking with you for a bit, but I want to get to know you better. I have this idea. Okay, this is actually not my own idea, but my friend was talking to me about this, and I thought it'd be a really cool date idea. Back in character now. This might sound weird, but there's this lecture hall that's open in the evening. In fact, scratch that. Don't say this might be weird. Just say, hey, this is a little bit. Nah, you could say weird. I think you do have to preface it that you're not to not be weird. You have to say I acknowledge that this is a little strange, but don't say like, hey, this is really strange, and don't. I don't know how to phrase it, but be confident with it, even though it's weird. Acknowledge that it's weird, but just be confident with it. So saying, yeah, as I was saying, yeah, I know this might sound weird, but there's this lecture hall that's open in the evening, and I'd want to watch a movie. I was thinking of watching a movie. If you want to join, that'd be really cool. And then she would either say then, well, she could say a bunch of things, but she would likely not say yes. She would likely say, oh, I don't know, when were you thinking? Either when were you thinking or I'm busy. And I'm busy means no, because you haven't even given a time. So how could she be busy if you haven't even given a time? Okay, let's assume. Okay, let's assume actually she says I'm busy. Then you say, oh, okay, have a good workout, and then just leave. Done. If she says, oh, maybe, what time were you thinking? When were you thinking? Or just straight up maybe. You, regardless, you would give a time. You'd say, well, I was thinking this Friday. I'm free this Friday. And then she would say, again, she would probably say, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Then you could say, well, can I get your, could I get your Instagram? Well, could I get your Instagram? And then she'll likely give over the Instagram. I mean, if she might not, but I've never had a situation where she doesn't give over the Instagram because it's just so awkward directly saying no for girls. She'll give over the Instagram, but if she really didn't want to, if she really didn't want to go on this date, she'll just ghost you when you text her, which is valid. That's okay. So just be aware when you're approaching this and you ask for her Instagram. Just because you get her Instagram does not mean you're in. Okay. As I was saying though, that's how I'd approach. That's how I would say it. And that's more direct. You still open more warmly rather than a complete cold approach where, hey, I think you're attractive. Let's go out on a date. That won't work well unless you're attractive, unless the circumstances are perfect. But if you do more of a warm approach, you have much more chance of succeeding. And again, by being direct as well, you're able to show that you're interested rather than skirting around it and being less blunt. So I'd like to try that. I don't know for sure if it works well, but I think it could work. Now, I think I think the issue is you're going to get Instagrams, as kind of what I mentioned before. You're going to get Instagrams, but you're not going to get follow ups. She's not going to be interested in going to the movies. Well, not the movies, going to some lecture hall date thing. That's why that's why I phrased it like this. Like it's very to me that's very weird. Like who's ever done that? Gone to a lecture hall to watch a movie? Really strange. Or the other date idea I had in Ottawa would be walking on by the canal, just walking along the canal, hanging out, maybe grab a snack like booster juice or I don't know, what else would there be? Some drink or just some food snack and just walking and eating or eating out at a picnic table. Either of those either of those would be fine. Just the idea with the movie is I really wanted to do that. That's just been on my mind recently and I thought it'd be cool. And it's very unique. Nobody asks that. Nobody asks to go to a lecture hall. And the thing what's different the thing that's different is you don't just it's not just going to the movies. So generally going to the movie theater for a date watching movies is not great because you don't get to talk with her. But in this, it's empty. The lecture hall is empty, so you can just talk the entire time. You can what I like about movies or watching them with friends, actually just watching movies, is that I can talk with someone. I can talk with my friend while the movie's going on and I can say, "This is so stupid. Why would he do this?" Or, "Oh wow, that's exactly how I would have done it." Or that's really creative by the director. Things like that. Where if you're in a movie theater, it's just you can't even pause. You can't pause. You can't speak. Sometimes you don't even understand what he said. But in this way it's more casual and it's more personal. Keep it brief. You'll likely see her again. Besides, you don't want to seem like you care, so I should be the first to say bye. Okay, this is kind of in contradiction of what I was saying where you probably won't see her again. You probably will, honestly, given it's the gym, and if you go at the same time every single day, or every time that you go to the gym, you go at the same time, then you might see her again. The thing is, okay, maybe it's not a contradiction because girls go less often than guys go to the gym, just on average, and they go varying times. So you can't just expect to see the same girl at 2 p.m. every single day. There are some girls that do that, but for the most part, girls just girls don't like going to the gym, and it's something they do like once a week or twice a week. So you're not. It's not. What I'm trying to say is, it's not guaranteed that you'll see her again. But at the same time, you want that mentality of you're gonna see her again. Like you're likely to see her again. You're just not very likely to see her again in the sense that she's going to be in close proximity or the situation is going to be exactly the same because there's only going to be a few more instances that you see her. How do I phrase it? You you are going to see her again, but it's going to be very rare. There's going to be very few occasions where you see her. I think that's what I meant along this line. Because you just have to see her one more time just to get more of a connection and then it's you have a much better chance of succeeding when you ask for her number or to go on a date or her Instagram. I would say don't ask for her number, ask for her Instagram. If it's gonna be kind of long, then use the time constraint tech. So if you plan on talking with her a bit longer, I wouldn't say talk with her too long because she's working out. Unless she seems interested, but it's going to be hard for her to seem interested because she's focused on working out regardless. So most of the time you're going to be yeah, just talking with her briefly, but also if you do end up talking with her longer or you see that it's going to be a bit longer, use the time constraint technique, which is basically just saying, hey, I got to go back to working out, but I wanted to ask you this. I wanted to ask you your opinion of this thing of Trump. Don't go political actually. Your opinion of the music in the gym, the music playlist. What do you think of that? What do you think of this music playlist in the gym? Ironically, I think I did make a girl uncomfortable, but it wasn't on me. She was working out directly in front of me. Okay. This was 2 days ago, 3 days ago. So I was working out. I was doing a hack squat, and directly in front of me, it was the only squat rack available. So the girl goes up and takes it, and the mirror is like we're directly aligned. So it looks like I'm staring at her, but I'm really just staring at the mirror, like looking at myself push. And it's not like you can just look to the side while you're doing a hack squat. Like, and okay, sure, you can look up, but I like looking at myself to see me move the weight up and to make sure that I'm using both legs at the same time. So, okay, yes, I guess you can look either straight, so straight up, which is a bit weird, looking at the mirror, much easier, most comfortable. Or you just look at your legs while you're hack squatting, so you just look down. But that's not on me. Like that's just I wasn't making her uncomfortable because of what I was because of something that I could have avoided. I mean, I could have gone out of my way to avoid it, but it's not on me. Don't know why I threw that in there. Just felt like I should. Yeah, honestly, nightmare would be I'm in the middle of approaching another new girl, and a girl that I've already approached walks in and sees me. That's why talking with guys will make it better because it'll show social proof and confidence rather than desperation to get a girl. Yeah. So if she saw me approach a guy beforehand and then she saw me approach a girl, the girl that I've already approached beforehand, I would be fine with that. That wouldn't be a nightmare. The nightmare would be if she's never seen me approach anybody else, any other guy, and she sees me approach another girl. Then my chance of success with her is like zero. And not only that, she could just I in the change room if they both go to the change room, she could just say, "Hey, that guy approached me too." It's like, "Oh, so he approaches a bunch of girls." I wouldn't worry about getting mogged in the gym. The fact you have the confidence to go up to someone and talk is a bigger mog, and it shows you have some interest, while the biggest guy is probably emo and super isolated and cold. I think people underestimate how much girls like confidence. The ability to straight up go to a girl and just talk with her shows a lot of confidence. Not a lot of guys can do that. Sure, you could directly ask her out, but don't do that. Warm approach. It and it shows the same amount of confidence, I would argue. So don't approach too much, and if you do, try not to make it direct. You're making a new friend, and your opener should reflect that. Basically, ask Google questions. So this is where I move on to the questions that I would ask, how I would open the conversation. And I have a lot of examples. Okay. Do you know much about gorillas? Then talk about 100 men versus gorilla trend. So there's this trend going. This is how I'd basically go about it. This one I acknowledge is not great, but if you have nothing else, like these are just examples. You should find a better example, but these are ideas to get your train of thought rolling. And worst case scenario, if you can't think of anything else, then you could use these. Right. Okay. So basically, the idea is just who would win between 100 men versus a gorilla. So the question you ask, do you know much about gorillas? What? Why are you asking that? And then you'd say, well, there's this trend going on with 100 men versus one gorilla. And I didn't know who would win. I've heard both sides, but I don't know who would win. Who do you think would win between those two? My roommate was saying men would win easy. Yeah. And I don't know why it would matter, but I also believe men would win just based off of Instagram comments. This consensus seems to be men would win. Apparently, gorillas are not endurance animals, so they wouldn't last nearly as long. They would run out of stamina by, we'll say, like the 20th man, even though they could easily kill him. And so once they reach the 100th man, like there's just way too many. Do you know Arabic? Do you think Arabic is harder than Mandarin? And then this one I ask because I have experience in Mandarin, and I could say something along the lines of I've tried Mandarin, but I was I am interested in learning Arabic just because I've met so many people who know Arabic. Then you could talk about why it's difficult. What could be the challenges? Just you could talk about a bunch of things. How many people are there in Women's Hour? This one's a bit strange, but you could just genuinely be curious and say, "Hey, I was always wondering. It's always busy around this time. Every time I go to the gym, it's always busy. How many people are there during Women's Hour?" As long as you phrase it non-weirdly, creepily, like you're not actually wanting to go during Women's Hour, I don't think it's too hard to not to phrase it like you're not creepy. What do you think of the gym playlist? That one is pretty universal, pretty generic, pretty easy to use is what I mean. And it's not necessarily bad because then you can jump off of music. You can say, "Oh, what music do you listen to then? You don't like this music. What music do you listen to? Or you do like this music. Oh, so what music do you listen to? You tend to listen to 2012 dubstep. Like the playlist that we have at our gym is so stupid." And you could say that too. You could say, "I hate this gym playlist. They repeat it every single day. And I swear it's at the same times too." What do you think of this? Or what do you listen to? Just anything. It doesn't really matter what you open with as long as you have a conversation. Because when she thinks back on it, she's not going to think, "Oh, this guy opened with," she might think, "Oh, this guy opened with a really weird opener." Like the gorilla opener, that might be interesting, but she'll think it's interesting. And it more just shows you're confident and you're interested in her. So that's more what she'll be thinking about rather than this is weird. This is interesting. This guy is cool. This guy, I am somewhat interested in guy. I'd like to know more about this guy. You look like you're adventurous. You like traveling. Have you been to Costa Rica? So making assumptions, basically statements, guessing about her, and then you could just ask her, "Have you been to Costa Rica?" Or you could just straight up say, "You look like you're adventurous." And she'll respond. She'll say something like, "Yeah, I'd like to say so. You like traveling then?" Yeah, sometimes. "Have you been to Costa Rica?" And then she says, "No." "Oh, what's your favorite place?" "Oh, okay. Have you heard much about it?" "I was thinking of going there." Because I was honestly thinking of going there. So you'll notice a lot of these trends are things that I've been thinking about. They're things that are more personal to me because they're conversations that I would generally want to know the answer to. They're my conversations. And okay, if she says, no, I haven't been to Costa Rica. If she says yes, then you could say, oh, what's it like? I was thinking of even living there, but I wanted to at least go on vacation there. And then she'll give you her opinions. Getting opinions of someone is a great way of having them talk. Okay, so if she says no to Costa Rica, I've never been. Or even if she says no to traveling. You like traveling? No, not really. Oh, what do you do in your free time? Or okay, have you been to Costa Rica? No, I don't. What do you do for summer? Is not necessarily free time. What do you do for summer? Either of those would work fine. But summer is more relevant to traveling, where it's like traveling you associate with summer, with vacation. What do you do on your vacation then? What do you do on vacation? Where do you go on vacation? Oh, we have a cottage, whatever. Have you been to Costa Rica? And she says no. You could say something like, oh, what's your favorite place? Where do you like going for vacation? Oh, I don't really like going anywhere for vacation. Oh, you like staying home. What do you do? What do you do when you're on summer break? What's the first thing you do when you wake up? That's an interesting one. I want to know this because I want to get better at not doom scrolling and set up a good habit. So you could genuinely say that. When you ask this, what's the first thing you do when you wake up? And she says, "Oh, I make breakfast." You could say, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I want to get better." Is that you could push on it and say, "Is that the very first thing you do when you wake up?" Or you could say something along the lines of, "I I find that I always pick up my phone and check my messages, but I want to get a bit away from that. I hate doing that. And I end up staying in bed for another 5 or so minutes. So I was just looking for habits to break out of that. What I should do right after I wake up." And that's very relevant to a lot of people. A lot of people will be struggling with that, with being on their phones as soon as they wake up. So providing a solution, saying you're working towards that, it'll be like, oh, I wanted to work towards that too. That was a goal that I had too. So what were you thinking? Well, I actually, okay, this is the solution to this actually. The solution that I've come up with. What you do is you count down from 3. I saw this in a podcast. I saw this in a thumbnail of a podcast. You count down from 3, and before it hits 1, you do it. So you're in bed and you're like, okay, I need to get out of bed. 3, 2, and then you get out of bed. So you have to get out before 1. Don't really know why this works. Oh, I do know actually. It's you're offloading the work onto the off of the prefrontal cortex. You're just more it's more reaction based rather than I have the logic why I should get out of bed. Would it be better to not get out of bed? No, you just think this is what I have to do, 3, 2, and you do it. You don't rationalize it. And if you rationalize it, you'll hesitate more and you'll be less likely to do it. But I think if anything, that's at least what the scientist said, the one on the podcast. But I think if anything, if you rationalize it and you give purpose to it, you say, I need to do this because I hate being in bed for 10 minutes straight. This is a goal that I'm working towards. This is why I want to do this and I want to do things with my life and whatever and actually tie it to a purpose. You'll be more even stronger, even more likely to do it. But just having no rationale, I've found recently that it works very well where I just use it as instinct based, like reaction rather than think about it deeply. How do you fix your sleep schedule? That's another one that you could say, but it indicates that you have an awful sleep schedule, which you might not want to share. So that one I wouldn't necessarily use, but it could be nice if she also has a bad sleep schedule and she's like, I've been looking to fix that actually. So you could both say something like, um, yeah, I have my roommate accountability practice that I do. And that has been working really well actually. but I was looking to see if there was something else because sometimes he doesn't come down. Sometimes he forgets to do it. And I've set alarms. I've done all of these things, but they still don't help. Just expand on it. Expound upon it. Say there was a Carlton friend meeting app. What would make you want to use it? I was thinking of making this Carlton friend meeting app. Honestly, it'd almost be a dating app. But I mean like friends, if if you're good friends with a female, you end up dating. So in reality it'd basically be a dating app, but you'd also find males. So it'd just be a guy group. And it'd be like, hey, want to play frisbee today? Who wants to play frisbee? And then people would like it or comment maybe. I think that would be a really cool app to do it, but to make. But I just can't seem to get a hook. I don't know why people would want to join, other than simply wanting to make friends. I mean, sure, people want to make friends, but they also have to overcome the barrier of seeing it as like another thing they need to use. They need to download this. There is a little bit of friction when you are going to want to use it. So I should have a little gimmick of why you want to use it. So maybe first, my friend was suggesting something along the lines of first 100 users get a unique username, or I don't know, get a badge that shows they're the first 100, or specific perks. How do you know each other? Oh, okay. So these are another set of questions that were specific to my situation. Oh my goodness, 32 minutes. The girl that I was thinking of approaching yesterday, well, that I wasn't really thinking of approaching, but now in retrospect, that I realize maybe I should have approached just to test out. Not like, yes, she was attractive, but I'm okay. I don't regret not approaching, but I want to see if this method works. I want to approach to see if it would work, and it'd be cool if I got a date out of that. Yeah, but I don't regret not approaching. She was with two other friends. So I was thinking of something like asking, how do you guys know each other? Well, first off, she had a jersey, not exactly a jersey, but I could tell she was from a sports team. She had a training shirt. So I was gonna say something like, "Hey, what sports team are you on?" And then go off of there. And I was thinking specifically basketball. Let's say she says basketball. What sports team are you on? Basketball. Oh, you should have chosen soccer. You don't like uh or like basically nag about not being soccer, not being a different sport. Basketball. Oh, basketball's so annoying. Soccer's way more fun. And then kind of like ease into it and say soccer's way more fun. How are you finding it though? How are you finding basketball? And personally, another tip, what I've noticed is I tend to speak very fast when I'm nervous. So speaking slowly and with a lower tone of voice, it makes me seem more confident. So I should be using that more regularly, especially when if I plan on approaching a girl. Maybe I should even prep it beforehand when I'm talking with my friend. I speak more slowly and deliberately, so I'm able to think out my words, and then I'm once I deem myself ready, once I'm confident, once I'm content with how I'm speaking, then I can go over and I can go and talk with her. It's kind of like a warm up. Right, so I was gonna, yeah, how do you know each other? You, and yeah, after the sports, if you run out of things to say, so you say, how are you liking that? Oh, it's okay. It's whatever. I was thinking even you could say, I hear the practices are like at 6 a.m., right? Sports teams practices are like 6 a.m. That sounds brutal. Oh no, it's not 6 a.m. It's much more lenient. It's 8 a.m. Oh, okay. You have to do it every day, don't you? No, it's not every day. Okay, that sounds pretty relaxed. That sounds much better. I mean, still decently tough, but much better than what I anticipated. Yeah, yeah, it is. And at that point, you're basically like, okay, what do I say now? And then from that, you can say, how do you know each other? How do you guys know each other? And then we'll say class. Oh, we know each other from class. Oh, let me guess which class. And then I had a very specific lineup, I guess. Script. They called it something in the game. Script. It was something like script. Line. I can't remember. So I was thinking kin, or literally give me any program, any course. But I was thinking, oh, no, wait, sorry. No, I guess kin. So, oh, let me guess which class. Let me guess which class. Is it kinesiology? And it's possible they say something like, "Oh, what's kinesiology?" And then I just explain kinesiology, and they'd say no. I mean, if they say yes, then that'd be insane. And then what would you say from there? Say, "How are you liking it?" Something like that. You just say, "How's the profs? Are there any awful profs there? Or are there really good profs? Are the profs really good?" Maybe err on the positive side. Try to be more positive than negative. But it's very easy to be opinionated when you're negative. So it's double edged, I suppose. And okay, so they say no to kin. Then you say, oh, then it's gender studies. Don't even tell me if it's right. I know it's right. Gender studies. So how are you liking gender studies? And you're just teasing at this point. And then you say something like, or I was even thinking of going a bit further. You're a bit weird for doing gender studies. And then, but then you become more serious and you're a bit weird for doing gender studies. Okay, but what do you actually do? And so, like, you tease a little bit, but you can also be serious. And you don't overdo the teasing. That's another thing that might be annoying. The last point that I have here is, what do you listen to? So with Jim, it's very easy. That one's very easy to pull off because they're likely going to be listening to something. Or even if they're not listening to something, you could mention that even. You could say, how come you don't have your headphones? How come you don't listen to music while you're working out? Literally just say that. And now if she is listening to music, you just ask, what are you listening to? And then you go off of there. And hopefully you know a little bit about Tate McRae, Taylor Swift, Rihanna, and Ariana Grande. You know at least one song that you like. But you can say something like, even if you don't know any songs, you could say, oh, okay, that's not really my style, but have you heard of drum and bass? Or have you heard of indie? Do you like indie? And there's also a possibility that you get a connection there. You say, oh, yeah, I've heard of indie. Oh, yeah, you listen to Dominic Fike? Oh, I love Dominic Fike. Exactly, done. Easy. What do you listen to is probably the most generic for Jim, the easiest to pull off in any situation. And that's also your backup too. So if you can't think of anything, let's say you're able to think of an opener for her, because the thing is, you have time to prep an opener. You can look at her beforehand, before you actually approach her. But once you're approaching her, once you're actually talking with her, it's very hard to think. So you should have at least a backup, and the backup should be reserved for, what do you listen to? So if you're able to come up with an opener, now you have a backup just in case you run out of things to say, and you can switch the conversation. But as I was mentioning earlier, when you switch the conversation, it's gonna start being a little longer. So right before you switch the conversation, you should say, "Hey, I should go back to working out, but what do you listen to? What music do you listen to?" And then continue on from there. And then that's once you're done with that conversation, that's when you can choose to either be direct or indirect, where you straight up say, "Hey, listen, I thought you were attractive, and that's why I came up here. I was thinking of doing this on Friday. Would you want to join me? What's your Instagram?" Or indirect, and you say, "Hey, well, it was nice meeting you. What's your name?" Maybe don't say what's your name. Yeah, because if you don't say what's your name, you have a jumping off point from next time you meet. If you do ask and you get her name, you also have a jumping off point. You can say like, "Oh, hey, Kinsley," or something. I don't even know what Kinsley. "Hey, Kinsley, um what are you working out today? What are you doing today?" But if you don't ask again, so you also know whether she's interested, because if she asks for your name as you're leaving, "Well, it was nice meeting you. See you around." And then she asks, "Oh, hey, what's your name before you go?" And you're like, "Whoa, okay, she's actually interested in me." You know, you know, she at least has some interest, because that's not just being nice. You didn't ask for her name. If you ask for her name and then she asks for her name, that's just being nice. But if you ask for her name, if she asks for her name before you ask, that's showing at least a little bit of interest. Hope those tips help.